My name is Cheri Holman. I am the Executive Director of the U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan, and today we talk about what's possible. For example, what if we all ate plant-based diets? What if we rode bikes to work, to the store, to visit our friends and family? What if we took mass transit when biking or walking was not an option? And what if we drove carbon-free vehicles when single-car passenger vehicles were our only choice? Climate change is happening all around us. It's no longer a future problem or a distant prediction. It's right here, it's right now. The wildfires hit close to home for me. My mom lives in California, and the last 3 years have been horrible. It breaks my heart when I go home and visit the place where I grew up and see how much it's changed. I'm scared for my mom's health, but she refuses to leave the place that she knows. And besides, where would she go? With extreme flooding across the country, hurricanes devastating places that were once beautiful and where thousands of people made a living and called home. I'm sure everyone in the room has seen some of this in the last year. All around where I live, there were late or no crops planted in some fields. The earth just can't sustain our rapidly growing population. And here's the bad news. The world is currently undergoing the largest wave of urban growth in human history. By 2060, the 10 billion people are projected to add 2.5 trillion square feet of buildings, or an area equal to the entire current global building stock. This is the equivalent of adding an entire New York City to the planet every 34 days for the next 40 years. We took the 10 largest cities in Michigan by population, and with data from the Environmental Protection Agency, Energy Information Administration, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Transportation, we added up the carbon emissions from building, energy, water, and transportation. And we found out that just these 10 of our 100 cities in Michigan are currently releasing just under 20 million tons of carbon. That's the equivalent of 23 million acres of forest. But here's the spoiler. We only have 19 million acres of forest in Michigan. So let me repeat that. The pollution from just a tenth of our cities outweigh the offset of all of our Michigan forests. So we have some work to do. Our built environment is changing daily, and how we address the construction and operation of our buildings is our biggest opportunity. This is totally doable. We've done the math, and I can show you. Grand Rapids produces 2.2 metric tons of carbon per year just from building, energy, water, and transportation. To stay in line with the Paris Accord, we need to reduce 100,000 metric tons of carbon per year over the next 11 years. And I know that sounds like a lot, but I can also tell you that our local building owners are rising to the challenge. We looked back at the Michigan Battle of the Buildings competitors, and we can see that the 230 million square feet of competitors are avoiding 135,000 metric tons of carbon. It just so happens that Grand Rapids is of similar size at 225 million square feet. But there's more great news. Those same building owners are putting $14.1 million back into the local economy with their energy savings. And that's just energy efficiency. Imagine what can be accomplished when we add in a circular economy, plant-based diets, forest conservation, and all the other brilliant ideas that are in this room. Again, this is our time. Local action must step up where federal leadership is absent. The door on fossil fuels is closing, and the opportunity for a future where human health is our top priority is now. There are so many great organizations in this room that are working in a multitude of ways to protect our environment, and they're working to protect the people who are being unjustly harmed by our environmental impacts. Speaking on behalf of my organization, I can tell you that just planning this conference has helped us to identify collaboration opportunities that will surely increase our impact moving forward. So spend some time today talking with each other and getting engaged. Because we are in this together, and we can accomplish anything we set our minds to. It's great to be up here actually talking about climate change, right? We spent a lot of time doing this work and not saying the word, and so it feels really good to publicly say climate change now. Just look what a 16-year-old girl from Sweden has done. Last Friday, we were serenaded by our youth in Rosa Parks Circle on behalf of their future. It was so inspiring. After lunch, you're gonna get a chance to hear from some of our local kids, or what I like to refer to as our future leaders. They're from Grand Rapids Public Schools, Grand Rapids Community College, Aquinas College, Whitehall Public Schools, and Kalamazoo Public Schools. And I'd like to thank Steelcase for sponsoring all our student tickets and making this happen. You're also going to get a chance to hear from some of our local leaders throughout the day, including Mayor Bliss with the City of Grand Rapids, Dr. Brandy Brown, our Climate and Energy Advisor to the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And I'd also like to thank others for being here, our former Mayor George Hartwell, Mary Judnich from Senator Stabenow's office, and Peter Dickow from Senator Peters' office. Thanks for being here. And of course, there's the main reason that we're all here, right? Paul Hawken is here. We were lucky enough to convince Frank Edwagashik, our Director of United Tribes of Michigan, to be with us today, and he's going to transition us from conference to happy hour. So make sure you stick around for that, because Founders is buying the beer. We have got ASL and Spanish interpreters with us today, so if anybody missed that at check-in, please drop back in, pick up some earbuds. And we've got DNVGL sponsoring our lunch today. Boxed water is supplying us with a great alternative to plastic. There's water stations all throughout the conference hall, so please feel free to refill your boxed water containers. If you brought your own water or bottle, of course, do that. This is a zero waste event, so please be mindful of all the recycling bins that are placed throughout the conference hall. I did ask because I didn't notice a compost bin, and we're just supposed to leave our food, extra food on the trays or whatever, and they will compost in the back. Books and Mortar is here, and they're selling Paul's books. They're in the exhibit hall at this end. He's gonna be doing some autographing, but only for 45 minutes before he has to leave. So if you are interested in having your book signed, get your name on the list. We're doing appointments in 15-minute increments. We'll take about 30 people, I think they're doing in the 15 minutes. So just a few of you are going to be able to get that autograph session. So get your name on that list if you would like to have Paul sign your book. I want to thank SMG DeVos for providing this beautiful ballroom for us to come together today. We have some amazing sponsors and supporters in this area, and I'd like to thank Padnos, Consumers Energy, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, the Wege Foundation, and El Informador. Financial support is critical to all nonprofit and community work, and we appreciate all of you. This whole thing has come together with the help of these great people. You've probably had the chance to meet some of them, and you'll see them all throughout the day as they're volunteering their time to ensure that things go smoothly. You'll see most of them on stage, serving as a panelist, moderating a session. They've already put in hours of work to get us to this point, and they've recruited their colleagues and staff to help around here today, so thank you. I can't forget my team, Jillian Gem, our program manager, Morgan Pecora, my communications and content manager, and Wendy Berg, my program administrator and event planning extraordinaire. With passion, we are a small but mighty team, and I would not be up here talking to you if it wasn't for my awesome team. So what else is in store for you today? We've got some awesome breakout sessions. We've got the Powering Up Green Michigan, where we're gonna talk about community solar and the work that's going on in the Detroit and Grand Rapids Sustainability Departments, moderated by the 2030 District. We've got the program for growth and food waste, growing food, growing health, and growing justice with the Detroit Food Policy Council, Make Food Not Waste, and Our Kitchen Table, moderated by the West Michigan Sustainable Business Forum. We got Making Change Happen, Chutes and Ladders meets Network and Systems, and they're gonna tell you how to effectively talk about climate change, and that is led by students from Aquinas College. And let's talk about water with Wayne State University in urban scientific partnerships between academia, government, and community, with moderation by the West Michigan Environmental Action Council. And we're gonna hear what's possible from Smith Group and Landscape Architecture Foundation in integrated climate positive landscape design with Yumi Jakobic from GVSU moderating. And last but not least, get ready to set your GPS to Michigan's future mobility with insights from the Rapid, the City of Detroit, the City of Grand Rapids, and thank you to Next Energy for moderating that session. We have lots of time planned in our sessions for discussions during the breakouts, so please share your thoughts because our local solutions to climate change lie within this room. You are all civic and community leaders. You may not see yourself as a traditional leader, but each day you're sharing thoughts and you're showing others that change is good. Maybe through your parenting, you're changing the way your children or your grandchildren view things. And every little bit counts. And soon, change will be our new normal. So without further ado, I welcome up Ana Jose with the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to introduce Mayor Bliss. I hope you all have a great day.
Wow, there's a lot of people here. So I'm supposed to be nervous, so this is my nervous spill right now. Let me get my glasses on. As Cheri said, my name is Ana Jose. I'm the program manager at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. For me, it is an honor to present to you someone that I personally admire, a strong and dedicated woman that has made it her mission to serve our community and ensure that equity is embedded in every process that the city has. She's someone that has numerous accolades, but for me, the biggest accolade is that the biggest accolade that someone can have is being a servant of the community. In the Latinx community, we measure successful people in a much different way. Here are some qualities that we look for. We want someone to make us feel that we belong in their space, and she does. We want someone to be centered and value friendship and family, and she does that. We want someone not to be afraid to support who she believes in, and she does that. We want someone that is able to plant seeds of growth in our youth, in our young people minds, and she does that. We really want someone that supports our communities of color in public, but most importantly, in private, and she does that. We want someone that can really see us for who we are, and I truly could say that she does that. She's an active member of the community. She served in the board of Downtown Development Authorities, Experience Grand Rapids, Convention Arena, Economic Club of Grand Rapids, Mayor Innovative Project, and the list could go on for days. And today, I was given the honor to present to you a woman of courage who sees our communities, Madam Mayor Rosalynn Bliss.
Good morning, everyone. My goodness, what a delight to be here and a room filled with people who care about our planet and who are not afraid to say climate change. Cheri, I loved your speech. I want to take this moment to thank her for all of her leadership and incredible work that she does in our community, but also in making sure that today happened and brought us together. I loved what you said. Local solutions to climate change really do live right here in this room, and it gives me incredible hope. Some days when I read the paper, I don't have as much hope, and then I walk into a room like this, and I get to connect with all the people who care so deeply about our city and our community, and I am very optimistic and extremely hopeful. So I'm really delighted to be here today to say a few words as we come together for this Rise Up and Drawdown conference, and I'm extremely excited to welcome Paul Hawken to Grand Rapids. I know we're all eager to hear what he has to say. So you are all here today because you are acutely aware of the urgency. This is an urgent issue for climate stability and climate justice, and to advance progress to slow climate change. I believe this is more urgent today than ever, as we have seen some national leaders turn a blind eye and their back to this critical issue. And I know we are grateful in our state to have two incredible U.S. senators, Senator Stabenow and Senator Peters, represent us in D.C., and we know that they care deeply about this issue as well. And I'm glad that Peter and Mary are with us today. So thank you both for your work and all that you do in our community. So what is encouraging to me is that where national leadership is lacking, there are communities all over this country who are stepping up again and again in meaningful ways. And I am extremely proud that Grand Rapids is on that list, that we are one of those cities taking the lead to fight and to tackle climate change. So here in Grand Rapids, we have set some incredibly bold goals, and we have made significant strides in confronting environmental dangers. And I would like to share some of that work with you today. I have a pretty long list, and I tried to pare it down to the best of my ability about the work that we've done in the past, as well as the work that we're continuing to do. And I'm incredibly grateful that my predecessor, Mayor Hartwell, is with us today. I had the joy to serve with Mayor Hartwell for 10 years on the City Commission before I stepped into this role. And it was really under Mayor Hartwell's leadership that we were set on a path to becoming one of the greenest and most sustainable cities in the country. So can you join me in thanking him? He's so humble. He always tells me after I recognize him at conferences, he tells me to stop doing that. But I just can't, Mayor Hartwell. You deserve it. You are a mentor, not just to me, but I know to a lot of people in this room, so thank you. So let me tell you about some of the work that we're doing here in our city that I think all of us can be proud of, and I know many of you in this room have been a part of, and we wouldn't be where we are today without a lot of you walking with us in this journey. So it was back, as Cheri said, it was back in 2015 that we launched the Grand Rapids 2030 District with the goal to reduce carbon emissions in commercial and industrial buildings. And we are very proud of the efforts throughout our community, and especially at the city, where we have reduced our energy usage by 8% over the last 3 years. When I first became mayor back in 2016, we started the Mayor's Greening Initiative. And since then, we have planted thousands of trees every single year with the goal of reaching our 40% tree canopy. So currently we're at about 34%. Some areas of our city we're at a much higher percentage than that, and some we are a whole lot lower. So we are actively working in a very targeted and intentional way to increase tree canopy, knowing how critical that is for the environment, not just for air quality, but stormwater runoff. The list goes on. And I'm deeply grateful for all of the work of those who serve on our Urban Forest Committee, who work every single day in helping us come up with a strong plan and an aggressive plan to meet that goal. So back in 2017, I signed on to the Mayors for Solar Pledge, and then this past year, we have been working closely with SolSmart to complete a technical and economic assessment of installing solar on city facilities, as well as streamlining city processes to make it easier for residents to install solar. And this is something I've heard from a lot of people since I've been mayor, that we have some work to do in this area. I also promised Mayor Hartwell that we would get solar on that Butterworth landfill before I was out of this office. So I have some work to do. I promise you we're gonna get there, and you're gonna be there with me when we cut that ribbon. So in addition, I am part of Climate Mayors. We are still in, which is a whole group of mayors committing to the Paris Agreement, as well as the Sierra Club's Mayors for 100% Clean Energy. Back in 2017, we were excited and really grateful to be selected as one of only 11 cities across our country to be part of the Zero Cities Project, with a focus on creating a policy roadmap to move building stock to zero net carbon by 2050. So since then, we have completed a complete baseline building assessment, and we have worked with community partners to make sure that we include racial equity into this work, into every single step of this work. Last year, we created an energy advisory committee that includes an incredibly brilliant group of diverse individuals from throughout our community to support and enhance our efforts here at the city and throughout our community. We still hold very firm to our goal of getting to 100% renewable energy for city services and facilities by 2025, and this group is helping us get there. We had to push back the goal, Mayor, from 2020 to 2025, but we're gonna get there. So last year, we were really proud. We had 6 ENERGY STAR certified municipal buildings, and we have a goal to grow that list. We are also working to convert over 18,000 streetlights in our city, throughout our city, to LED lights and embed some smart technology as we convert those lights. Last year, we were able to launch a Grand Rapids air quality initiative with some incredible private partners to better monitor air quality data throughout our community in real time. We have made green infrastructure a priority in our city, and it is now a key component to our Vital Streets projects. We are now encouraging permeable pavement. We support the building of rain gardens, and we have increased landscaping requirements throughout our city. We have passed a green infrastructure portfolio standard policy, and we have also integrated green infrastructure in the development of new parkland. And when it comes to parkland and green space, we have work to do. There are parts of our city that really need green space. And sadly, there are parts of our city where some of our poorest residents live. So one of our goals is to acquire and increase green space, playgrounds, parks in some of our poorest neighborhoods, and make sure that every single child in the city can safely walk to a park within distance of their home. So this is another one I'm excited about, and I see some city staff here in the room, and I'm grateful for their work. This year, we will be converting our yard waste collection site from collection only to on-site composting. Yes. So some of you already know this. It wasn't all that long ago, it was illegal to compost in your backyard in our city. So that has since changed. So we changed that ordinance. You can now compost in your backyard. But we really want to have a composting site where individuals throughout our community can have access to composting. But then we'll also use some of that composting on our public land, including right-of-ways and our parks. So it's a great partnership. It's a true win-win-win, as I say. We are also in the process of building a biodigester. This is another really exciting project where we are going to convert waste that is being created by manufacturers in our city, particularly breweries. So Founders is one of our key partners in this project. So we're going to take that waste and we're going to convert it into renewable natural gas. And that is so this is a partnership that we have with DTE, and this will get us closer as well to our renewable energy goals. Hopefully by March of next year, you'll all be able to go take a look at the biodigester. So we have also converted our downtown shuttles and our rapid buses from diesel to compressed natural gas, significantly reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving air quality. I'm so glad to see that there's a breakout session on that today and that our new CEO, well, I don't know if I can technically call new anymore. He's been here about a year. But our CEO at the Rapid, Andrew Johnson, is going to be here talking to you about some of the great work and leadership that he's doing there at the Rapid. So we were also really excited this year to launch a pilot project with May Mobility, allowing us to test autonomous electric shuttles on a circulator route downtown and on the west side. How many of you have been on May Mobility, one of the shuttles? Isn't it fascinating? I can't believe I don't see more hands in this room go up. So if you haven't taken a ride on the shuttle and jumped in one of those little green May Mobility shuttles, I strongly encourage you to do it. It is fascinating. I have done it multiple times. I've sat in the back seat and the front seat, just trying to figure out how these things work. It's absolutely fascinating. So I strongly encourage you to do this and to get a sense of what the future potentially can hold when it comes to mobility. And the city, we are also investing. We've added electric vehicles to our fleet, and we've also upgraded public electric vehicle charging stations. Just recently, I was really glad to see that the City Commission adopted a bicycle action plan. So this is the first bicycle action plan. I'm so glad to see folks from the West Michigan Bicycle Coalition here today. They are key partners with us in this space. Part of that plan is that we'll be exploring bike share and e-scooters in the next year, although some people are concerned about the scooters. I think if any city can get it right, we can, and we're going to work on that. And then we're also really excited that we will soon have the second bus rapid transit line that will span over 15 miles across multiple communities, start operations next year with the Laker line. And we have long provided free recycling to residents throughout our community. In fact, we were one of the first cities that really led this. And we continue to do that today with a goal on increasing participation. And the last thing I'll share with you is something that I'm really proud of, that all of us should be proud of, but really was started by Mayor Hartwell and Mayor Logie and a lot of people that came before me, and actually a lot of people in this room. We are one of the few cities in Michigan, and I dare say throughout the country, that has completed our combined sewer overflow separation project. For those of you who don't know, this was an investment of hundreds of millions of dollars that resulted in the elimination of combined sewer overflow points in our sewer system. I believe it is one of the reasons that we can look at our Grand River today and see it as clean and pristine as it is. Although some of you who were out there with me at the Mayor's River cleanup, you may not have seen it as clean as usual because we were picking up a ton of trash out of the river. So for those of you in the room who joined me a couple Saturdays ago, I want to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to the West Michigan Environmental Action Council. Every year they help organize that really great event. So thank you so much, Bill and his team. And then just in closing, a couple things. I want to say, as mayor, I am so deeply grateful for the work that we are able to do in our city, and we're not able to do it on our own. I'm blessed at the city to work with an incredible leader in this space, Allison Sutter. She's absolutely incredible. If you haven't met her, I hope you get a chance to today. As well as all of you. I mean, our city is a special place for a number of reasons. And I believe what makes us most special are the people who call Grand Rapids home. It's people like you in this room, people who care deeply, not just about our city, but you care about your neighbors, you care about the future of our city, you care about our region, and most importantly, you care about our environment. And that is what brings us all together today. I'm a big believer in the power of people. That is what changes the world. People do. People who step up again and again, who speak up, who are willing to say climate change, even when their voice shakes. It's the girls like Greta who get up and stand up to world leaders, and they say, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you? And that is what all of us get to do today. We get to come together, we get to share our stories, we get to talk about the work, we can talk about those days of disappointment, we can talk about the people that we're disappointed in, but most importantly, we need to talk about what we are going to do together. What are our local solutions to climate change that we know we can be a part of? Because I believe that once we decide where we want to go and what we want to do, nothing can stop us. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for everything you do in your community. I'm so deeply, deeply honored to be a part of this community and to represent you as mayor. So I hope you leave here not only inspired, but I hope you leave here ready to act. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Wow, it's an amazing group, amazing group. I'm not sure I've ever been at a stage where I always see people say, I can't see you out there. I can see you, but I can't really see your eyes, so I'm gonna trust they're all there too. Plenty of coffee in the group, right? I'm Guy Williams. I'm the president and leader of Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice. For those of you who don't know our organization, we were formed in 1994. I was part of the formation of it. I wasn't the leader at that time. I've been in my current role about 9 years. But our organization was formed out of a conference in 1991 that was a national conference to bring attention to the challenges around environmental exposures to chemicals and how those chemicals and the health impacts were bringing amazing amount of harm in people of color communities, far more than the general population. And I'm sorry to say that this is still true today. And one reason I'm very excited to have been asked to be part of the planning committee for this event is to foster the vision that my organization has of spreading the understanding of the power of interconnected work. In our earliest days, people really weren't that familiar with the term environmental justice or any of the premises behind it, especially in our local area. We worked a lot in Detroit, and today I'm happy to say there are many organizations who join in different aspects of the work of transformation in the Detroit area and our state and our country. However, there's a lot more to be done, as we well know, and that's why we're all here. I feel blessed that, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, spared me to get to this point in my career. And I think that for me, what I want to share as I introduce our premier guest, Mr. Paul Hawken, is the power of individual action. And hopefully that's something we'll look to nurture our own spirits today, reflect on our personal journey, our heritage, like what all got us to this place. I mean, our globe didn't get in a fix that it needed this many remedies overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. However, it's going to need a wide array of personal action and commitment. Last night I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Hawken and in a small group setting, and we were chit-chatting, and one of the things he said that really stuck with me, and I believe is true, it's our job to change our own mind about what's possible and what's our role in making what's possible be real. So I want to give kudos to Cheri Holman and her team at the local U.S. Green Building Council for their vision and commitment for making this conversation happen and the risk they took, putting their resources on the line and believing in people like me and our steering committee to help bring it alive. And now, we're at the front end of a day where we can get fed all kind of ideas, tie it to our personal commitment, and expand our power. Part of my organization's vision is that recognizing that Detroit can only be healthy and green if Michigan is healthy and green, and if the United States is healthy and green. So we've begun to take what assets we have in terms of our knowledge, our relationships, and started to take more initiative in Grand Rapids, in Muskegon, up north with tribal communities and other areas to highlight the interconnected nature of what we have at stake and share the power of what we can create together on the upside. So without further ado, I want to gesture to Mr. Hawken to get him to start moving this way. And I think he's getting some counsel over there about the technology. But let me see a show of hands quickly of anyone who's not heard of our speaker. A couple. All right. He said to me last night, don't read my 700-word bio, please. Say something that's meaningful. So what's been meaningful in listening, because I'm not such an avid reader, I listened to all 19 hours of audiobook. And because I'm a visual learner, I had to buy the book too, so I could see that there's 2 pages for every solution. And what it said to me is, oh my gosh, we can do this thing. We really can do this thing. The ingenuity that's available, the science, the technology, the social willpower that's available right now, we can really win. We can really win. And Mr. Hawken, I admire his courage as an entrepreneur, a scholar, and author for assembling and taking initiative to co-create the group that did all the work for this and to set a foundation for so much beautiful common language that we can all draw upon as we work to draw down the impact of carbon in our atmosphere. So without further ado, I want to bring up a very powerful, generous, and brilliant man, Mr. Paul Hawken.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guy, thank you very much. Good morning, Michigan. How are you? Come on, yeah. There you go. I'm not going to ask you to stand up and do jumping jacks, but it helps too. Cheri, just congratulations on bringing this together, and thank you so much for inviting me. Amazing. Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm not going to leave. This is Yeah, I know. This is Grand Rapids. I never knew what the name really meant. Now I know. It's like grand and rapid in terms of its activity. And Mayor Bliss, thank you. If you're here, thank you so much. I'd love to talk more with you. I know some mayors all over the world. I'm sure they would love to talk to you too and share. And I want to thank somebody who's closing today, whose last name I will blow, Frank Edawagashi. Oh, God, I knew I was going to blow it, but no, he gave me a thumbs up. And really all the tribal nations and the first peoples here who preceded us as occupants, inhabitants of this beautiful land of Michigan. So thank you. Drawdown. Usually it means draw down troops, water, or your checking account. It doesn't have a really good meaning. But buried in the scientific literature, I found the word as referring to that first time when greenhouse gases peak and go down on a year-to-year basis. And in 2001, the third assessment of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, came out, and as each assessment comes out, it's more pessimistic and dire than the prior one, and that's entirely due to the fact that it's based on consensus science, and any scientist who's here, raise your hand if you think there's such a thing as consensus science. Science is not about consensus, it's about evidence. You can argue about the evidence, but you don't take the middle, well, there's no middle way in science. It either is the first law of thermodynamics or it's not, but it's not like, well, sort of. And so each report became more dire because, in a sense, the understanding of science was suppressed by China, by the Vatican, by Saudi Arabia, by who knows what else. We don't know what's going on in there, but the point being it was tamped down. And that's why you're seeing today reports that, like this morning, the oceans are much worse off than we thought they were. Okay, well, everything's more worse off than we thought they would be because what we thought we would be was controlled instead of allowed to be shared. And for me in 2001, when the third assessment came out, as a journalist, not as an expert in climate, I sort of ceded that to Bill McKibben and Jim Hansen, Al Gore and Catherine Hayhoe and others who are the scientists or the experts in this. But I definitely was monitoring it as an environmentalist. And everybody got excited. This report came out of Princeton called the Carbon Mitigation Project about the 7 global wedges. These wedges, only a scientist could come up with the pi wedge for explaining something, but it was a wedge. And if we did these 7 wedges, that we would stabilize emissions by 2050 in the United States. And there was a lot of excitement about it in 2001. And I read it, and I was excited too until I actually read it. And then underneath that, there was 15 solutions that basically informed these wedges. And these 15 solutions were quite interesting. 11 of them could only be adopted by the boards of directors of very large corporations. And all 11 were deeply financially underwater, which meant that if the boards of directors voted to go ahead with these proposals and solutions, they would be sued. There'd be shareholder suits for fiduciary irresponsibility. In other words, they couldn't do it. And 8 were energy companies, 9 was utility, 10 was a car company, and the 11th one was an appliance company. And I thought, well, okay, what's the other 4? And of the other 4, you and I could do 1.5 of them, which is to drive less and to put a solar panel on our roof or carport, whatever. That was it. Mayors were left out. Cities were left out. Farmers were left out. Schools were left out. Communities were left out. Neighborhoods were left out. I mean, almost all of us were left out of these solutions. Our connections, our wisdom, our knowledge, all that was left out. And that's when I began to go around and just as an individual, as a citizen, as are we all, like, well, where do we stand? I want to know where we stood. And I began to propose that we do Drawdown, which is to map, measure, and model the 100 most substantive solutions to reversing global warming. But the most important part of that, or the other important part of that was I wanted to name the goal. Because I felt then as now that we're not naming the goal. What do you hear? What do you read? Mitigation. We should mitigate climate change. We should fight it. We should tackle it. We should combat it. And I'm going to ask you to do something now which is very, very dorky, which is just wave your hand once in front of you. Go ahead, just do it. Okay. That is the atmosphere. Here it is. It's right here in the room. How are we going to tackle, fight, and combat this one? That's a ridiculous statement. And what's so ridiculous about it is that it assumes that it's someplace else, that it's an it that we can fix. Like, where is that it? And fixing is like, well, we have these little tools and we're going to fix it like a car, you know? It's not fixable in that sense because it is absolutely kith and kin, part and parcel of who we are as people, as individuals, as a municipality, our forests, our lands, our critters, our invertebrates, that's all interconnected in an exquisite, miraculous way with this thing we call the atmosphere. And so the idea that we can use these war or sports metaphors to talk about it is the thinking that caused the problem in the first place. Okay? And that thinking is called othering. It's other. Well, this country has a very sorry record, frankly, of othering. It othered First Peoples. It othered African Americans. Recently, we've othered Islam, Islamophobia. We othered women. Me Too, right? This is a response to that. And we're othering the atmosphere and the climate, and thinking that othering is going to solve it. And actually, it cannot solve it when we think that way. And so as an English major, what happened, and you'll see if you have read Drawdown and look at it, basically what I did was look at the language. How are we communicating to each other about this extraordinary challenge to human civilization? And it's not about saving the Earth. It's not about saving our atmosphere. This is about saving civilization. That's what it's about. The atmosphere is fine. It doesn't care. It just responds naturally. The Earth is going to recover. No matter what we do, it will recover. It's recovered before. The issue is, will we? And so the enormity of it is, as I said last night to a small reception, I think that the problem is much worse than we understand, but the solutions are far better than we know. So both are true. That is to say, it's the best of worlds and the worst of worlds. You know, it's Dickensian in that sense. But going back to the question of where do we stand, this is where we stand here. And what you're seeing then, that jagged line, is the CO2 levels in the atmosphere over 400,000 years. And that's from the Vostok ice core taken in Vostok, Russia. And what they measured is the oxygen isotopes. And from there, they could determine both the temperature and the levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. So, and it's a landmark piece of research. And you can see on the dotted line, which is 300 ppm, that for 400,000 years, we've never exceeded 300 ppm. We've come close to it where that circle is. That's the Eemian period, when alligators were going up the British Columbia coast and lions in Denmark were romping through Germany, and the oceans were 20 feet higher. You know. So actually, the Earth is very sensitive to changes in carbon dioxide, except there's a big lag time. Now, we're told that we're at 414, 415 ppm today, which is like, whoa. And not only that, look at the rate of change. But actually, this is where we are. 496. This is from NOAA. This is from the federal government. Even in all the suppression of science on the federal level, this is NOAA right now. And what they measure is all the other greenhouse gases, methane, nitrous oxide, CFCs, HFCs, SF6. These are potent greenhouse gases. And so they are looking at this in terms of CO2 equivalent. And an equivalent, we're at 496 ppm. So now we are beyond the beyond. We haven't seen anything on Earth. We weren't when it happened, but I mean, for 20 million or more years. And so what I want to emphasize, this is the most dire slide of the whole deck, don't worry, it all gets better from now, but I'm just saying, we are in Terra Nova. We have never been here. No one knows what this means. Not a single scientist. I'm telling you. It's not like, oh, okay, given the situation, therefore, ergo, this is going to happen. We know this in what time. Nobody knows. Absolutely. And what this tells us is what Drawdown's about, which is the idea that somehow we should reduce. We should, of course, do it. That we should mitigate, that we should address, these are all verbs. Verbs are not goals. The goal is to stop. If you're going the wrong way, stop, and then turn around and go back the other way. It's that simple. And that's what Drawdown's about, and that's what you're doing in this community. It's extraordinary. And so again, it's about languaging it. Now, the other thing, and I'll talk about maybe later in the slide, but it's like, you want unreasonable goals. Reasonable goals don't get you anywhere, because if it's reasonable, you already know how to do it. And we don't know how to do this, right? Mayor Bliss is clapping. I clap back at you. We don't know how to do this. And that's what makes it so interesting to me, rather than, oh, well, let's do what we know. No, we've been doing what we know how to do, and that's what got us here in the first place. So let's not do that anymore. Let's do what we don't know how to do. And that includes a lot more than just carbon. And so this is a video came about when I gave a presentation to the Interface International Sales Conference in February. And the night before, we were in a room such as this, and a friend of mine and I were to present the idea that greenhouse gases, that climate change was already here. It wasn't something that was going to happen. And then the media company we were working with, Magic Wig, said, oh, we have this intern, a 20-year-old intern, and he thought he made a little video wondering if you would like to use it. And so it was night, it was late. He said, oh yeah, sure, let's look at it. And we watched it, and we were all going, oh my God. And like, yeah, we'll use it. And better than our little dorky slides. And the thing about it, the reason I like to show it is because it's true, but it's the 7 horsemen, really. It's heat and drought and famine and war and migration and flood and hurricane, and there's more, by the way. But the point being is that I felt it was so important because it's emblematic. Talk about Greta Thunberg this morning, about really how a new generation sees the world. And they see it very clearly. The problem with Greta Thunberg is she can't lie. She only tells the truth. And it's so interesting that truth now has become a one-liner, because the manipulation of truth is media, on all sides, by the way. It's so clear what she's saying. And I think we are not in a world where we really respect our elders very much, and we honor them, and we look to them for wisdom. We don't, we should, but we don't. And I'm not sure how much wisdom there is there I'm gonna speak from my own Anglo-Saxon community. But we are in a situation where we have to look to the youth for wisdom. We really do, because they're not burdened by the baggage of having to conform or to see it the way others see it, or to believe in the world in such a way when it's not. They just see it, and it's very clear. And they also see that their future is more imperiled than ours because of their age. So is it game over? And that's really, nobody really dares say that, but that's kind of the intimation, is it game over? And in 2013, after 2001, remember, I was going to NGOs and institutions, universities, and saying, let's do this project, let's do Drawdown, let's figure out what do we know, what's peer-reviewed science, and how do we have the tools at hand to actually address it and reverse global warming by 2050? And they all said at that time, we don't do that, and it's a great idea, and you should do it. And I said, if I knew how to do it, I wouldn't be asking you, and I didn't know how to do it either. In 2013, when Bill McKibben's article came out on global warming's terrifying new math, I had people come to me and say, it is game over. And that's interesting. They're using the same language, even though they didn't know each other. And I'm going to move to British Columbia and take my kids and buy a farm, stuff like that. It's like, I'm out of here. And I actually felt like from my friends who have been through AA or different recovery programs, that when you surrender, when it's game over, when you give up, is actually when things open up. It's when you drop what you think you know, and now you're open and you're permeable. And I thought, well, if it's game over, this is a good time to start Drawdown. Because I didn't think it was game over at all. And so, but if you really care about this and you go, God, I really want to do something, and then you Google the top 10 solutions to climate change, try it, this is what you get. I'm not kidding. These are the top 2 hits on Google. And there's nothing wrong with this list. Be efficient, eat smart, consume less, like move closer to work, as if you could afford that where I am in the Bay Area. You can't even afford where you do live, much less move closer to work. Forgo fossil fuels, great idea. I love the third one on the Union of Concerned Scientists. Put a power strip in your home entertainment center. You gotta be kidding. It's like, I have to get my home entertainment center first. I don't have one. And with all due respect to these great organizations, unless you have an IQ lower than room temperature, you know that this is inadequate to the task at hand. Talk about a disempowering list of solutions. You go, we are really screwed. This is the list, we're screwed. And these are proverbs, these aren't solutions. You should have love your mother on this, number 6, right? It's like, yeah, of course, I'll do all this. But then it actually makes you more threatened, more afraid, like, oh my God, if this is the best we've got from the best institutions, but of course it's not. And clicker work for me, please. We're good. It worked too well. Okay, so this is the Drawdown, the book that came out. Just so you know, what we did is map, measure, model. The models were based on solutions that had extensive peer-reviewed science. Extensive, not just one paper. Okay. Second, there had to be robust economic data from respected international institutions, the IEA, the World Bank, IPCC, the Bloomberg Energy, to buttress, because we measured also the economic cost and benefits of these solutions. So, and the last thing is that when we chose the science, there's oftentimes a spread in the science, and we chose the low median, and there's only 2 things you can do about the atmosphere: stop putting greenhouse gases up there or bring them back home. That's it. There's only 2 things. All the rest of it is technique or technology or practice, but that's the only 2 things we can do. And so we chose the low median on the impact or the sequestration, bringing it back home, and on the other side, which is on the economic side, we chose very low learning rates, almost flat. Learning rate is the rate at which the cost goes down over time of a particular technology. And we've seen solar and wind just going down a ski jump, in terms of cost over the last 20 years. We didn't use those assumptions at all. So the numbers were very conservative. That was my strategy, so that it was bulletproof, so that no scientist could come back and say, gotcha, because the scientific community is a gotcha community, come on. And they're like little dogs in the bushes, and waiting for you, and all of a sudden your ankles go, oh, wow, what, and one gotcha would have, in a sense, undermined the credibility of the whole book in a sense, because that's what gotchas do. And we never got a gotcha. And not to say that there shouldn't be or couldn't be, but I'm just saying we never got one criticism in that way. And that was for you, so that when you use it, somebody else doesn't gotcha you and say, oh, well, this Drawdown book is blah, 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 you can count on it. In fact, you can count on it and being really conservative in terms of its data points. And so out it came. This is the number 2 solution. The number 1 solution, I forgot to put in the deck, I'm sorry, is refrigerant management. We didn't know, because it's a vector model, everything's interconnected, although we talk about them in silos. We didn't know what number 1 was. For 2 months before the book was published, we did not know. It's amazing, because we had the files, we designed the book, you know, and so we were just sending a hard drive to the publisher, and we waited till the last moment, because models are never done, because models are never true, because they're about the future, and nobody knows the future. So you try to get them as approximately right as possible, but you're never going to get them right, because there's no rightness about the future. And number 1 was refrigerant management, and we all were like, oh, you know, we're going, no, it's so unsexy. And I mean, look at these guys, this is sexy, you know, these guys stand there like, yeah, I'm putting this thing up there, right? I'm a guy. And refrigerant management shows all these air conditioners coming out of the windows in New York, you know, apartments, and you go, well, we didn't even know how to write the press release, put it that way. But this is number 2, and what this shows is the other part of that, which is offshore wind, which we had to model differently because the economics are completely different, less so as time goes on. But combined together, they would be the number 1 solution. So wind energy now is the cheapest newly installed form of electricity in the world today. It's wind. It's not coal. It's not gas. It's not even hydro now. It's actually wind. So this is extraordinary progress in a relatively short time. And this is solar, and we show this one, this is number 10. I show this one because of, not because of the panel, yes it is. Why is she smiling? Well, she's not smiling because she has made her contribution to, you know, climate change and to renewable energy. She's smiling because those 2 girls of hers live in a straw hut on a straw island on Lake Titicaca, and they're using kerosene to light up the hut at night so the girls can study. Kerosene, can you imagine? And so no more kerosene. So she's smiling because she has become a much better mother in that situation, right? And kerosene's gone. And it underlies the fact that if you look at these solutions, if there wasn't a climate scientist alive and we had no idea what was causing extreme weather, we would want to do, in my opinion, at least 98 of those 100 solutions. In other words, we have so many reasons to do them besides our concern about the atmosphere. I mean, the cascading benefits from them are extraordinary, and that's why I chose this photograph. The number 3 solution is reduce food waste, and this is a municipal, it's a farm issue, but it's mostly a municipal household restaurant issue. This doesn't measure the methane emissions that come from landfilled organic matter. And once it's anaerobic in a landfill, it's a methane producer. And if that was included, we didn't have the data, we couldn't include it, it would be the number 1 solution. Food waste would be number 1. And again, who knew? And I want to say, with all due respect to Al Gore and you know, others, you know, for years, what we've heard is energy, 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 solar, solar, wind, and recently Elon Musk. You know, if we do those 3 things, you know, we get a hall pass to the 22nd century, right? No, we're cool. Well, you're not cool. And those are crucial solutions, absolutely crucial, to stop combusting fossil fuels and put it in the atmosphere. But that does not get us to where we need to go. And so again, when we modeled the solutions, there you go, food waste. I mean, who knew? We didn't know. I want to be very clear about that. Plant-rich diet. What do we mean by that? It means reducing protein to a normal level in this country. We eat so much protein, and we pay the price in the health, by the way. It's not healthy. It doesn't make us more healthy. More protein does not make you a better person or a stronger person, and it does not work that way. The body needs 50 to 60 grams. We're eating 100, 110 grams, so cut it out, literally. And then, as much as possible, substitute plant-based protein because your body will love it and so will the environment. I mean, you make both healthier if you do that. And so that was the number 4 solution. Number 5 was basically tropical forest protection. And number 6 was this cutie pie. This is called educating girls, you know. And the data here has been known for 40 years, so this is not like a discovery by Drawdown. What we did, and I was the one who put this into our solution hat, and we were kind of winnowing through the solutions and narrowing them down. But this has been understood by nonprofits and NGOs and so forth for 40 years. 145 million girls are taken out of school to either early marriage or to go to work to put their brothers through school. Interesting. And we know that those girls become women on somebody else's terms, number 1. And second, they have an average of 5+ children. And those children don't do well because their mother doesn't have the capacity to earn income in the way an educated woman would have. And if she is allowed and supported to reach equivalent of a high school education, all right, what happens is she makes very different decisions about reproduction. She has 2+ children. And she puts more of her economic resources, which she can now earn, into those 2 children. And so that pattern is repeated by those children, boys or girls, in terms of their family planning. And so this is a pathway to family planning, but it's not about family planning, it's about empowering a young girl to become a woman on her terms, not somebody else's terms. And the seventh solution is family planning, by the way. And you combine the 2 together and you get basically, you can see 119.2 gigatons. That's the difference between the high and median UN population in 2050 as projected by the United Nations. And it also includes avoided deforestation. If you have 1.1 billion people less, 10.8 versus 9.7, that's a lot of food you don't need to create, and that's a lot of forest that continue to get to stand and not be cut down or burnt down in order to produce soybeans, GMOs, Monsanto soybeans for cattle and CAFOs for hamburgers. I mean, the whole thing is so bizarre. And, but when you lower the number of people, you get absolutely cascading beneficial effects besides the fact that there's just simply less people. What do less people do? They do nothing because they're not here. And so it has a huge impact. This is modest. And I remember giving this slide to UC Santa Cruz, and the first question was from a professor, and he said, yeah, but how do we control population? It was so interesting. I was like, had you just heard what I said? And I said, well, the way you do it is you lose the verb. It's not control, it's empower. And that's true for everything, right? And these are just solutions you know well, you've talked about, well, maybe not all of them. This is improved rice cultivation, which lowers methane emissions, and the cute little goose-stepping son of his dad. Walkable cities, placemaking. This is so important. In Barcelona, they're taking 6 square blocks, one after another, not just one 6-block area, and then getting rid of all cars. The only cars that can go on there are ambulances and funeral coaches. That's it. You cannot drive on these streets. And then when they're closed off, the people said, well, they asked people, what do you want to do with these streets? In other words, they're yours now. They don't belong to the cars. And I'm going to publish it in the next book. It's 200 ideas that people have to do with their streets once they're safe and they're quiet and they're not polluting and you can go off the sidewalk and not worry about your life. I mean, and it's so beautiful what's happening in Barcelona. in terms of what happens when you have density and then you open up these spaces to people. They create places that actually people want to go to. And so the streets become much safer. And I'm not talking about vehicular problems. I'm talking about just crime and so forth. Because you get community, you get conviviality, you know people, you see them, you meet them. This is who we are. It's our natural state of being. And we've designed cities to absolutely, in a sense, eliminate that. And yet we are still people, and we like to congregate. You know, I'm not saying we herd, because herding is a little different, but we definitely like to congregate. This is Buenos Aires. The net zero buildings, this was laughed at 20 years ago. I remember who proposed it first, and now they're going up willy-nilly all over the world. Now they're going to net positive, which is buildings that actually donate back to the grid more energy than they take, and such. Electric bikes, I'm talking about scooters. This is a mechanic in Berlin, actually, who makes these things, testing one out. He's such a cool dude. And we have to make scooters and electric bikes cool, you know, for sure, instead of Chevelles and things. Anyway, this is a bike infrastructure, and this is critical too, because we didn't measure bikes themselves, you know, the pedal bikes, because you're not going to do it unless it's safe. And so on a municipal level, you've got to create the infrastructure so you can go wherever you want on a bike and feel like you're safe and you're not going to be run over and squashed like a bug. Building automation, the sensors, and what's happening in the built environment now is extraordinary. Buildings are becoming more like organisms. You have senses everywhere, inside and outside, of course, our 5 senses, but your body's sensing things all the time and adjusting and changing, you know, and telling you and giving you feedback. You know, you're thirsty, drink. You know, you're hungry, eat. You know, I mean, this is what the body does, and this is what these buildings are doing with this. It's not just automation like automaton. No, what it means is that the building then responds. Nobody's in this room. This stuff goes off, you know. I can sense it. The building can sense it, you know. And humidity levels or lack thereof and all that sort of stuff. And the cost of these is just plummeting down. Again, the learning rate of building automation. And district heating, which you can do in bigger cities. It's done extensively in Europe. It's done in Atlanta, which is, instead of having, you know, standalone gas-fired heaters in every building, or, you know, oil-based ones, you actually create one heating source and you pipe it to a limited area. Smart grids, this is where you're going to go sooner or later, I promise you, which is your utility. You're going to cut the wire, you're going to cut the cord. And you're going to create your own energy, and you're going to store it, and you're going to share it. I mean, that's where we're going with renewable energy and so many other things that are coming technologically. And so building retrofits, Empire State Building, the most important thing we can do to buildings is not build new net zero buildings. We're doing that. The most important thing is to go back to the buildings that are now at hand, and they're going to be here for a long time. It is the most, and I say this in the best way, labor-intensive way to reduce carbon emissions. In other words, it creates the most jobs for the least cost. Why we are not doing it has more to do with the financing mechanism. Like, who's going to finance it? The benefits are there in terms of reducing costs, but then who gets the benefit? How do you get the cost benefits connected to the capital costs? And that's the problem, not the actual technology or the knowledge of that. Obama was very, very much about this all the time, talking about this. This is green roofs. This matches the ecosystem of the Rhine River. This is Switzerland. And so this is more like a pollinator avian stopping off point. So the birds and insects and bees and sort of that come along can stop on the roof and then keep going, rather than just, you know, sedges or something. This is a building proposed in Chicago. I don't think it's going to go up, but I love the design. And I was just in Chicago, so I thought I would show it. And but building with wood, and this is sort of counterintuitive. Instead of steel and concrete, you build with laminated timber, okay? And laminated timber is made from scrap wood, or from, you know, even stuff you want to get rid of, like eucalyptus and but you make these laminated beams, you know. These buildings do not use concrete and steel, and those two together are 11% of global emissions. So the idea is a new building is not going to be a potential source of emissions, it's actually a carbon sink. Because trees are half carbon when they're dry. But here's the thing that's like, you look at it and go, yeah, but I don't want to be there when there's a fire, right? Right? Well, that's common sense, accepting if you read the Yale study, these are more fireproof than steel and concrete buildings. You think, no, how can that be? Steel doesn't burn. Well, go Google the Torch Tower in Dubai. It's steel and concrete. It's burned almost down twice. I would change the name if that was my building, but the thing is, these beams don't burn. They char, and that's it. And the char stops the fire from going any further. And they're so light, it's wood, not steel and concrete, they don't collapse. And we saw 9/11, right? It collapsed. Why? It's so heavy. I mean, all this concrete and steel, once one floor goes, they're all gonna go. You can't support it because they're so top heavy. And this is happening. There's 90-story buildings permitted now in Tokyo and London that are built entirely of wood. So it's not like 6 stories, 7 stories, and then go back to steel and concrete. 50,000 high-rises are going to go up in the next 30 years. And it's a really important decision whether they go with wood or steel and concrete. And this is cities like forests. This is happening in China, and China is way ahead of us in many ways, and partly they're ahead of us because they have a governing process, which I'm sure all of us wouldn't appreciate in many ways, or in some ways, but in terms of getting stuff done, they get it done. This works, pencils out, let's do it. It's not like years and years of thinking about it and going through regs and this and that. They just do it. They're building sponge cities. Sponge cities are cities that capture 80 to 90% of the water that falls on the city, and then they reuse it for the city itself. And that water doesn't go into rivers and drains, and the costs are reduced in terms of that. But they're also, this is from Stefano Boeri, who's an Italian architect, and he's building what's called Bosco Verticale, which is a vertical forest in cities. And these are 10 stories tall, and they're not trees on a balcony. I want to make that clear. What they are is a technology. It's actually a vertical forest, and they don't have pine cones that will kill you if they drop from the 10th story. They're very carefully chosen as to which varieties. And the water goes from the top all the way down, filtered through all the tree and back, and so, and how they're maintained. They're up in Milano, they're up in Nanjing, they're going up in Luzon City in China, and they do what they're doing in Singapore, which is when you now build a new structure in Singapore, you have to measure the ecosystem services of the land, the original land that you're building on. Well, what was it with pollinators? How much oxygen did it exude? How much CO2 did it sequester? How much water did that land retain? And so forth. Now, when you put up your building, you have to exceed those ecosystem service metrics by 5, 6, 7 times more than the land you built upon. And we know how to do that. And that's why I say cities like a forest. Remember I said unreasonable goal. How about a goal like this, that the city becomes the greatest carbon sink, not the country? Why not? You know? Because that city is quiet, it is convivial, there's not all this noise, the air is fantastic, children are safe, they walk to schools. I mean, can you imagine a city like a forest? Please do, because that is the future. And of course you have to retrofit. What I love about Grand Rapids is that somebody didn't do what they did to Chattanooga, which is basically they just eviscerated the old town and then put in parking lots with the idea that, you know, build it and they will come. And basically the downtown is basically a danger zone every night because there's nobody there. There's nobody there because no reason to be there. And so I'm so glad that you live in a city where that was not practiced. These are the top 20 solutions. And what's interesting is land use is 12 of them, right, including food. And why am I telling you this? Because we're talking about cities, Grand Rapids. Well, for a lot of reasons. And the next book that is coming, 2021 spring, so please don't ask for it today. It's called Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. And what I mean by ending the climate crisis is pushing out the horizon into the future so we feel a sense of a future and a safety margin, which we don't really feel right now. The sense of urgency about 2030, et cetera, is creating a tremendous amount of fear and anxiety. And understandably, this is really good science. Well, there's other good science as well. And that scenario, the 2030, it's called the SR 15 special report of the IPCC, came out in October 2018, is based on business as usual assumptions. It's based on assumptions. What are the assumptions of that? Well, that you and we and others aren't going to change that much in terms of what they do between now and 2030. And I would challenge that assumption. But the biggest solution to reversing global warming is agriculture. It's not energy, it's agriculture. And regenerative agriculture can sequester 1 trillion tons of CO2 in the next 40 years. Just to give you a metric there, that would take us back to 1870. There's 3.3 trillion tons in the atmosphere right now. Right? And this assumes that farmers will go from 1% to 3% soil organic carbon. Right? I have friends who have 6, 7, 8%. So 3% over 40 years is very, very doable. Or it assumes that every grassland and every farmland increases soil organic carbon by 0.5%. Just 0.5%. And the soils used to be much, much higher. And what we've done in our grazing and our agricultural methods is burn them, desiccate them. We've turned soil into dirt. We have farmed all right, but we've extracted from our soils the life that's in the soil. We've taken soil, as I said, and made it into dirt. And the more dirt-like it becomes, the more external inputs you have to put in to get a crop. We're in a gerbil wheel to hell in terms of our agricultural systems. And so what I want to emphasize here is that when we look at city, we look at the pipe that comes in for water and energy, and we look at those, right? Well, there's a couple other pipes that come into cities, which is food. That goes into every building too. So does fiber. And although on a governing level, a city has limits, on a biological level, it has no limits whatsoever. There's no such thing. And it's really imperative that cities begin to understand this relationship to what we call the country, but really it's just outside, you know, where there's farms, where there's forests. And this next one, 750 billion tons of CO2. The Federal Institute of Zurich came out with this report 2.5 months ago from the Crowther Lab. And they took Google Maps and they studied the whole world in these little, I think 2 or 3 hectare blocks. And what's there, what's growing there, and who's there, and how's the land being used. And basically identified 800 billion acres of land that could be forested. And when I say forested, I don't mean plant trees, I mean make a forest, and mixed species, et cetera, that would sequester 750 billion tons of CO2 over the next 30 years if we did that. So now we have 1.75 trillion tons of CO2. And the reason I want to include this in regeneration is to give people a sense of breadth and scope of possibility. What we've heard and continue to hear, and it's understandable because it's from the science, is what are the probability of what's going to go wrong, how long it's going to be, how bad will it be, it's worse than we thought it was going to be, and the probabilities have changed, right? Probability, probability, probability. What we haven't heard about enough is possibility. And every problem is a solution in disguise, or it wouldn't be a problem, right? Absolutely. So if this is the most wicked, super wicked, gnarly problem that human beings have ever comprehended, that is to say, global warming and the effects therein, then we can assume that there is a plethora of solutions there for us, and there are transformative solutions. And from that, we could go to another sort of axiomatic way of looking at it, which is climate change, is the climate crisis, is global warming, is it happening to us or for us? To us is you're the victim, you're the object. Something's happening out there, and it's happening to you. And if you look at it that way, which is our choice if we so choose, then you're going to live your life from that point of view, and you're going to make people wrong, you're going to demonize, you're going to blame, you're going to feel bad that you're born right now, that you exist, or you want to leave soon, or whatever. But if you change that preposition to for, that is, it's for you. It's feedback from this beautiful thing we call planet Earth. It's feedback. And any system that ignores feedback perishes. We know that. And so this is feedback. It's a blessing. Whether you're a religious person or not, it's a blessing from our Creator. This is our Creator. Right? And when it's for you, then you take 100% responsibility, stop pointing fingers, blaming other people, and you go to work. In other words, got it, a problem. Thank you, scientists everywhere. Now I'm going to go to work, because it doesn't do any good to wallow in the problem. No matter how it's presented to you, in terms of its direness or this or that, no. The solution is coming together and working together. And there's one other solution, which is oceans. Oceans nothing sequesters carbon faster than kelp and nothing. It grows like, 18 inches a day. I mean, it's ridiculous. And what we also know from a new report that came out from Nature Geoscience is that when kelp breaks from its roots and the rocks or whatever, it just floats. It can float for 6,000 kilometers or underneath the water, and then it sinks to the bottom of the sea and sequesters carbon for thousands, if not 10,000s of years. So that's another carbon sink. And so this one is about, let's grow it. You just bring up the thermocline with self-actuating tubes, frames, that's all they need is a frame, and you cut it once a month and let it go. It's cut and release, and we can sequester 1 trillion tons. Now, these numbers are ridiculous. Here they are. Regen forest oceans, 2.75 trillion tons. And then, I'm sorry to kind of geek out here on numbers, but, that's who you got today. That's me. It's like the dork. Okay. And you can see in the bottom there, at 416 ppm, it's 3.3 million tons. So obviously, if we do 2.75, which we really can't, that's the max and so forth, we'd be more like Mars. But so that's not what we're talking about here so much as giving a sense of possibility. So if we can do 40% over 40 years and so forth, I mean, we can do a heck of a lot if we then also simultaneously reduce our emissions to zero. But there's another important aspect of regeneration, and that is us. And there's this idea that regeneration is often used the way I just used it, which is to regenerate biological systems, ecosystems, living systems, no question about it. But what has happened in the climate movement and the climate speak, if you will, is that we're the problem and technology is the answer. But what has happened in that communication right up to today is what we call deadlineism or future existential threat. The communication has always been about the future. In the future, this will happen if we don't get our act together. It's going to be worse, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the human mind doesn't respond to future existential threat. I just got to tell you, that's neuroscience 101. It can take it in intellectually for sure, but it has nothing to do with you today, nothing at all. And we are humans, and we respond to current existential threat, today's and tomorrow's. Most people in the world have a lot of need, not just wants, needs. Security, food security, education, health, clothing, habitat, safety. I mean, most of the world is in need. And the climate movement is going to succeed both in communication and in delivering the goods. It's got to address current human needs. If we're not addressing the needs of human beings in the world, if we're not addressing poverty and the causes of impoverishment, by the way, we are not serious about reversing global warming because they're inextricably connected. And I just think somehow there's been sort of especially I'm near Silicon Valley, this runaway thing, like, a bunch of nerds are going to figure it out for us, and direct air capture machines, all this sort of stuff, that there's a technology. The technology that we need is our hearts, not the one that's invented in Silicon Valley, which is to actually think and imagine a world where we actually care about each other and we take care. And these solutions to reversing global warming, as I said earlier, have so many extraordinary benefits. It's how we take care of each other. And basically, we're the only kin, we're the only species who we look at some of our kin, our relatives, and we say, we don't really need you. And they feel it, especially our youth. They feel it. They go, wow, I'm being told I'm not necessary. I'm not wanted. I'm not needed. Well, how would you feel if that's how you grew up? Would you act it out? You bet you would act it out. What else could you act? And we make a prison industrial complex and make money off this marginalization of each other. This is so crazy. These are resources, not enemies. And we treat them that way and they become so, but that's not true, And so the real thing that's missing in this world isn't money. There's too much money in this world, frankly. Not in the right places, don't get me wrong, but it's too concentrated. There's too much of it. It doesn't know what to do with itself. What's missing is purpose and meaning. That's the biggest lack we have in the world, and because it's lacking, then people look for it and find it in all the wrong places. Social media, video games, ISIS is a perfect example of young men coming off the farms in Syria, going to Damascus, and people recruiting them and saying, you have a mission, etc. It has nothing to do with true Islam. It has a lot to do with their sense of worthlessness, and they want to have value, right? And so if there's anything that can basically bring us together and give us a sense of value, it is, in fact, bringing life back to Earth. And bringing life back to Earth, which is a municipal responsibility, not just a rural responsibility. I want to make that very clear. This is where most people are. Half the world is in cities. 80% by 2050 will be in cities. And so that relationship, that dynamic, is extraordinarily important in terms of regenerating, recovering, reversing, restoring, renewing this place on Earth. And how we do it, how we interconnect, how we honor each other is just as important. We keep being told, we keep being given a diagnosis. But you have to understand that diagnosis is not prognosis, right? It's not. It's as if the world's like, so we went to a doctor for our yearly checkup, and then she or he says, look, you have basically a life-threatening disease, and this is the disease, the name of it, this is how it works. You probably have X months to live, and here's my bill, see ya. I didn't come to the doctor just to get my diagnosis. I came for help, for cure, for healing. And we now have to really shift to that sense of possibility, acting it out and providing it. This I want to show, it's a fusion company, unreasonable goal, making starlight on Earth. That's what fusion is. The sun does it every day. That's what creates life. And what's interesting about it is that the things that have come out of it, just like 30,000 technologies came out of JFK's commitment to put a person on the moon within a decade, Amazing things came out of it because we didn't know how to put a person on the moon. That was why it came out. Well, how do we do it? Well, let's figure that out. And this is about fusion energy. Put that aside. One of the things that came out of it was that they used a neutron beam accelerator to spin plasma. That neutron beam accelerator, with a Japanese scientist at Tri-Alpha and a French physicist who won the Nobel Prize this year, they've known each other for years, and they have figured out quietly, but then they announced it, that it can take radioactive nuclear waste and transmute it so that instead of the dwell time is from 100,000 years to 25 years. Nobody expected that to be an outcome. Nobody designed that. Nobody intended for that to happen. And this is what happens when you have unreasonable goals. You have what's called, in calculus, a forcing function, which is it forces you to move out of your comfort zone into your areas of innovation and breakthroughs in your thinking. And that's what it does. So Drawdown, Michigan, Drawdown, Grand Rapids, that's what it is, a forcing function. How do we do that? I don't know. Let's talk. Let's get together. This is not one of our advisors. We had 120 advisors. The spoiler alert today, is that he came home. I just wanted to tell you, if you haven't seen the movie, from The Martian. But the thing about this, the reason I'm showing this, because Andy Weir wrote the book, The Martian, on which the movie was based. And it's a parable about Earth. It's not about Mars. It's not about Mars. He used Mars for us to see something, and maybe we do, maybe we don't. And what we see is that what happened to him, he got abandoned. What does that mean? He got disconnected. We're disconnected. We are disconnected as a society and as a civilization. And we have so many forces trying to disconnect us further, by the way. And then what did he do? Well, he had this little dome of plastic, and he started growing potatoes in his own poop. Sorry, I know it's before lunch, but I'm just saying that's the movie. And what does that tell us? He's in a closed system. He has got his own atmosphere, and he's growing food. And all the inputs are what he has at hand. There's no external inputs. That's the Earth. It's a closed system. It's got a little thing around it called the atmosphere, and all the inputs come from the Earth itself, okay? And then he loses his atmosphere, right? It blows up. And now he's got to get the heck out of there, right? And so at the end of the movie, he's the ominous greed, of astronauts, and he's invited to go to the school where there's wannabe astronauts. And at the end, he gives this talk to them, and he said, pay attention. He's talking to these young women and men. He says, pay attention, because this could save your life. When I was up there, did I think I was going to die? Absolutely. And it's going to happen to you. At some point, everything is going to go south on you. And you're going to say, this is how I end. Space does not cooperate. Put in atmosphere. The atmosphere does not cooperate. It just is. It just does what atmospheres do. He says you can either accept that, or you can do the math, and you can solve one problem, and you can solve another problem. And if you solve enough problems, you get to come home. And that's what this is about. It's about coming home. And the home starts here, it's in our community, it's in our place, it's in our culture, it's in our families. That's home. We're talking about coming home. We've been liquidating our home and selling it to the highest bidder. Stop. That's called degeneration. It took us to this point. It's time to turn around and regenerate. And I want to end just one more slide. Which is not here. I guess you didn't put it up, Cheri. Oh, well. I'm sorry. No, it's not here at all. Oh. But I want to tell you what the slide was, because it's a children's theater at the University of Colorado called Up in the Air. And it's such a beautiful slide. And it shows this 9-year-old black boy dressed as a pea and a 9-year-old white girl dressed as a carrot. And they're acting out the solutions in Drawdown. They're peas and carrots. And they're acting out plant-rich diet. And Drawdown is taught from every grade in this country, from 4th grade on up, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, college, community colleges, to MIT graduate school, Stanford graduate school, so forth. No book has ever done that before, in at least my publisher's understanding. The point being isn't to laud the book so much, is to point to the fact that we really do want to know what to do and how to do it. People really respond to possibility. And I just want to, again, thank you all. And Guy, thank you so much for the beautiful and gracious introduction. Thank you, Cheri. Thank you, Mayor Bliss. Thank you for being here with us, Frank. And thank you all for what you do. This is the best time to be alive, not the worst. It's the most challenging time to be alive, but why did you come here anyway? To do that, because challenge actually is transformative to who we are, what we think, what we believe. And we get to renew ourselves every day if we accept that challenge. Thank you so much.